So when I read these things, I have to introspectively ask myself, am I really hearing what God is saying? Am I really seeing what God is trying to get across? Am I really perceiving? Am I really understanding? Because God says there will be people who see, people who they see it, but they don't perceive it. Who hear it, but they don't understand it. They don't get the importance and the urgency of it. People who may know it, but they don't live it. Jesus is calling out so much of our church culture today who hear it, see it, experience it, but it never, ever, ever changes their lives. We have to be very quick. We have to think very quickly because our hearts constantly want to protect ourselves, and we constantly want to be self-righteous and to convince ourselves we're okay. Convince ourselves this isn't me. Convince ourselves God's not talking to me. He's talking to somebody else. He's talking to them. He's talking to this other group, because your self-righteous, wicked heart will constantly say, someone is worse off than me. And you will always and only, if you're not careful, measure yourself and judge yourself up against a worse sinner than you are, rather than measuring yourself, comparing yourself to the righteousness of Christ. We have to be very careful with our quick, self-righteous kinds of hearts. In every passage of Scripture, God is calling us out on our sin. He's calling me out on my sin. There's not one passage of Scripture that I'm not guilty of sin in some way. In everything that I read from the Bible, confession always comes with it. In everything you read from the Scripture, confession will always come with it. Because we are sinners who are being saved, who are being sanctified by the Spirit. But we're not perfect yet. And we always need to come to grips with our sin. We always need to be honest about who we really, truly are, so that we are glorifying Christ as the righteous one, and we are demoting ourselves. We are pushing our pride down as the sinful ones.